welcome back. We're on the Marketer of the Day podcast with Mr. Aaron Phillips, who is a successful radio personality. He's an author, he's a public speaker based in Las Vegas, and Aaron's show is called Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips, and he hosts, he produces, he directs, he co-hosts with many different broadcast shows with varying topics. So we're going to find out about the deep, dark, dirty secrets about the broadcasting world and how we can tap into some of this DJ shock jock energy, how we can show up, be a people person, be a communicator, and everything else that entails. So Aaron, glad to be speaking with you.
Robert, thank you so much for the invite. I'm so good. You read that just the way I wrote it. I loved it. Absolutely terrific. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
So what are you all about? I mean, tell us about your shows, your books. I mean, what should we really be sitting up and paying close attention to the amazing things you're doing?
Well, here's the thing is that I got started in this industry 18 and a half years ago, believe it or not, by answering an ad on Craigslist. I became a color commentator for Junior Golden Gloves boxing. In post-production, the play-by-play guy was terrific, and we just chatted, and we said, we should do something together. He was a professional athlete. Me, I'm just, an everyday fan of sports. And a couple months after that, we launched a show on the local Fox affiliate here in Las Vegas. It was called the Sports Zoo. And then after that, after a couple of years, I felt I needed to diversify and open up. And for 7 years, I co-hosted a show with a dear friend of mine called Vegas Unwrapped, where we talked about Vegas and all that goes on. One thing leads to another. And here I am 18 and a half years later, a member of the Las Vegas Entertainers Hall of Fame for all that I do. And my focus right now is I currently co-host 4 shows, Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips, which you so kindly mentioned, which is very good because the title of the show would not make sense without word my name. I always tell people that. So that's a good thing that it works. I co-host a pro wrestling talk show. I co-host a show about community service, about Kiwanis International. And then on Thursday nights, I have a show where 2 other co-hosts of mine and we talk about things that's out there, that like The View, only we actually like each other. So that's what we like to say. And I love that. And I produce other podcasts for people. My book is really detailing my health journey. I was 354 pounds about 7 years ago. And due to some medical issues, I had to lose weight fast. I had gastric sleeve surgery. I'm healthy. No more diabetes, no more high blood pressure. My liver regenerated. Now I'm out telling the world, which is how I got the nickname The Voice, because this is my product right here, like it is for you as well, Robert, when you do this. And I wanted to share my experience. I want to teach people. I want to share my podcast knowledge. And so I train people to do all of that. And that's really how all this has come about. And I love it. Every time that I think about being a guest, which is rare for me, and or hosting one of my shows, I always get those butterflies, no matter how many times I do it. I host events, and I told my wife, I promised that the day I don't get those little butterflies, that's the day I hang up my microphone. But right now, I love what I do, and that's kind of what encompasses my life right now.
I love it. You've been through so much, you've accomplished so much, and we can learn so much from you, especially tapping into your energy, getting out of our comfort zone, rising above the limiting belief, all the self-help buzzwords. But what's great about your story is you pursued these opportunities, right? You answered an ad on Craigslist and it led to all these other things. Yep. And some things are easy to do, but they're also easy not to do, right? People have all kinds of excuses like, well, what about little old me, my low self-esteem, not sure I can express myself in the way that you do, not sure that I can find the energy every day to wake up and go and do a show. And so what do you have to say to some of those excuses? Like if someone says, okay, well, you do this weekly show with all these episodes and I'm not even sure I could do even 4 shows. How do we sort of show up the same way that a surgeon or a doctor has to show up? How do we get the oomph to make it happen?
Well, number one, believe in yourself. It's too easy to make excuses not to do things. The hard part is actually getting past those excuses and saying, I'm going to at least give it a try. Maybe you're not as successful as you hope at it, but at least you tried it and your regrets are none. For me, it's all about one very simple word, and that's passion. I mean, if you have a passion for what you're doing, it's not work, it's fun. And in the 18 and a half years that I've been doing this, I've put myself in a position where I've met great entertainers, business people, mobsters, sports figures, local people that make up the fabric of any community. And it's just knowing that I can reach out at any time and change somebody's life by simply putting a smile on their face by something silly or goofy that I say or do, where they believe in the power of my voice. My title of my book is called Let My Voice Speak to You. I let my words in that voice come out. Um, a lot of times I'm talking with potential advertisers, I change one word in that and say, let my voice speak for you, because my voice is my representation. And that's why I came up with the nickname The Voice. Not to be confused with the TV show, by the way. So I want to just say that.
Right.
Um,
They
but
copied you.
right, they copied me. Exactly right. If Blake Shelton comes knocking on my door, though, I might have an issue, convincing him of that. But it's just having that passion, that energy, and like I said, if I don't have that every day to look forward to doing what I do, to talk to people and be goofy in public, like when I go to restaurants, I need a server that has personality because I'll have fun with the people, and just recognizing that is fun makes it easier. And again, I'm used to it after all these years of making a fool of myself. I don't need any help doing that. But it's that passion, no matter what it is. I don't care if you're building widgets. I don't care if you're whatever it is. You've got to be the best of what it is. And when I started doing this, I hate to steal it from Nike. I just used to tell people, just do it. Reach for your dream. What's the worst thing that'll happen? You fall amongst the stars. I mean, come on. You got to do it. We can't live life with regrets.
I agree completely. And there's probably like if you put all of your decisions, your actions into a pie chart, there's probably a pretty big slice of the pie chart of things that you should just do without thinking. Like for sure, not every some things sure I guess require certain amount of preparation if you're like going camping or going across the country, but something like doing a podcast or recording a video or making that phone call, having that conversation, a lot of things involve just jumping in and just doing it. And this skill that you have, the people personality, the having fun, the being interested in people, that's something that I'm always consciously been looking to tap into my whole life, right? It doesn't come naturally, but I kind of say like, everyone I speak to, I think you're like the fourth podcast I've done today. There's always little tidbits to be learned from
Yep.
someone. And so out of all of these different guests that you've had, people you've spoken to, right? Mobsters and who knows what else. Is there any that stands out for you? Is there like maybe not like the top number one show, but is there anything that's like really memorable and fun in all of your experience?
Well, I I hate that question. Just like I'm sure people say to you, "What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that?" So
Sure.
all of my guests have been great, but I want to talk about a block of time that I'm most proud of. Actually, if that's okay, I have two of those. Number one, during the pandemic, we all know what the situation was with going out in public and small number of people. I continued to do my show every week from the studio that I do my shows at during that time because I wanted to provide a different way of looking at a day for people. We hear all the news in the pandemic and it's whoa, 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 and it's bad news. I wanted to still entertain. And so I still went to the studio and I still did my show, even if it was for 1 hour, once a week on a Saturday. People knew they could come to my show and they could laugh and joke and we could have fun together. And to me, that was very important to continue doing. That I'm very proud of. The other thing was, if you remember, 1 October, the Country Music Festival a couple of years ago, where the gentleman shot from the top of a hotel in Vegas and killed 58 people down during the concert. A couple of months later, or actually it was a year later on the anniversary, I had some guests. I did a special 2 hour show where these guests talked to me about it in the first hour of where they were and what they were doing prior to the actual bullets ringing out. Then the second hour, same people, I had them tell their story, where they were when they first started hearing the bullets, what they went through, their mind, where they hide, where they go. And for me to present both of those sides of that very tragic incident here in Las Vegas, the Golden Knights are in year 5, so it was 5 years ago, whatever it was. Anyway, to share both sides of that, if I had hung up my microphone right after that show, Robert, I got to tell you, I'd have been very happy with my career to be able to present that. People are people. I love joking with them. I make light of it, but I also put them in a position where my audience knows that they are the trusted authority in the industry that they're coming to talk about, whether it's a business or an entertainer. I put the spotlight on them. That's what makes it fun for me. I have my time for shtick. It's about my guests. And if I can continue to do that, I've never had a guest at the end of the show go, "Oh my God, that was the worst thing in the world. I'm never going to do this again." They all tell me they want to come back, and that's the biggest compliment I could ever have from any guest. So I know I'm not pinpointing one specific because I don't want to leave anybody out. It's been a great run. I love what I do, And for me to be able to answer questions, as I mentioned to you before we started going live, this is rare for me, folks. I generally am doing what Robert does. I ask the questions. So for me to be able to share answers and the insight, I thank you for the opportunity. And times like this are fun for me too, for people to see that side as well. That's a long-winded
Yeah,
answer. I apologize.
but that's okay. Like you said, you're on the other side, so it's my turn to make you look really good. And these are some good insights. Like you think
Yeah,
about how important like the USO is, right? Like there's like a war
yeah,
zone, and they send, and that's I don't even know how many decades or centuries that's been going on, but they send the entertainers to the war zone
yeah,
because it's really important when
sure.
there's stress, when there's negativity, when there's problems, to
Mhm.
have the fun in life, to relax and take your mind off things and kind of get to the maybe the optimism, the positivity, and the entertainment. And so, I'm glad that you mentioned about the kind of being on the flip side here, because
Mhm.
like I'm always there's always like a handful of things I'm like being mindful of when doing a podcast. Like I'm like, okay, well, are we keeping in time? Like, will we finish, by so we don't go like 2 hours? And
Right.
then there's also like I'm always mindful of like, okay, well, I want to ask my guests some interesting questions and extract the goodness and then like kind of mirror and keep things going. But I
Sure.
don't want to make it about me. I don't want to like, if you give me like a 2 minute answer, I don't want to give like a 10-minute response. And so, what sorts of maybe like subconscious or recurring mindfulness is going through your head when you're interviewing? Or like, is it all natural, or are there like certain things you're like doing to like better your best?
Um, when I started in this industry, I have a hard drive, an external hard drive. Wherever my voice is, I get a recording of it and I review it like a listener would. Because when we're doing a show like this, you as the host, yeah, you're kind of listening, you're thinking, you're the next question, but you're not listening to it like your audience is. And so what I do, and I still do it, I go back and listen to my shows, commercials, and I critique it like an audience member would. Oh, that was terrible. That was a bad question. Don't step on him and all that sort of stuff. The other thing I'm also mindful of is that in 19 years, there's two topics I will never, ever publicly talk about on the air: politics, religion, because I don't want to be labeled anything. I'm an entertainer. There's enough of that on all the other channels that are out there. So that's important for me. I always learn something new every time I get on the air. Could be the way I sat, could be the way I looked at my phone, could be the way I addressed my guest. I could have done a better intro. I'm never going to sit here in front of anybody and say, I know everything there is to know about what I do. You can't say that. Nobody can say that. We have to be open to new skill sets, new practices. I don't ad lib. I mean, I ad lib. I don't script like yourself. I mean, I like to go on fresh. I do get bullet points just like you and I talked about of things that I know my guest wants to make sure we cover. But that's it. That's as far as scripting goes. It's got to be a natural conversation because I do believe the audience enjoys that. I think they want to see the natural conversation between two people. If you mess up, you say something you shouldn't have, so what? My shows are live. I get one shot at it. If I goof up, I say something wrong, we laugh, I correct it, and we move on. That's what I think people like seeing is that we are humans on this side as we entertain people. So those are things I always am mindful about. The light is on my guest, no politics or religion, and the fact that I enjoy what I do. You have to keep those things in mind because at least if the enjoyment disappears, you're done. You're done in anything we do.
And we're living in a day and age where we can do other things, right? You're not just stuck being the coal miner or the
Yep.
gas station attendant. If you don't like doing the radio show, then you can go off and be an Uber driver or be an
Sure.
accountant or something like that. You can do other things. And so these are some helpful insights. Just this whole idea of, well, in the present moment, you're kind of in like three different states at once, right? Like you said, like there's okay, like what am I, how am I coming across? And I'm
Yep.
sort of 1/3 listening to my guests, but I'm also kind of 1/3 like, okay, thinking of what's the next thing to say to
Mhm.
keep the momentum going. But I don't want to focus on that part too much because I want to listen to my guests. And you're kind of like juggling all these things at once. But then it seems like it can be fun and interesting and keep yourself entertained, right? Because if you're not all scripted and you're not all off the cuff, you have like a little bit of background information, there's the ad libbing, you're kind of like jumping around somewhat. And it's kind of there's a little bit of an excitement, right? Like as far as it keeps you awake and alive and it kind of keeps you, it
For
feels like
sure.
when they say like, when you get later in the years, you do crossword puzzles and
Yeah.
like Scrabble games to
Right.
kind of keep the brain cells going. I feel like
Right.
if I didn't do a show for a week or two, I feel like my brain
Oh,
would get so sluggish. I mean, what do you think?
absolutely. And it's funny you say that because I was out of town last week and I happened to have been in Orlando hosting a golf tournament. And so I did miss a couple of shows. And when I came back this week to get back into the routine, it's like, how do we do this? It does. It
Hmm.
kind of messes you up. But I don't listen. I don't know personally every guest that comes on my show. I get referrals. I get, hey, you should have this person on. You have that person on. I ask again. You and I are very similar in how we do this. I ask for bio, bullet points. I go online. I search websites to get as much information as I can. But I also know that based on the first question I ask and the answer that I get back, I don't have to look at notes anymore because usually it goes down that track that your next question is always based on their response to the first question, and so the conversation becomes natural. The trouble is when you think you've kind of like my show's an hour, and if it's like 45 minutes in, and I think I've probably gotten all that I can out of this person for whatever the reason, I'm thinking, oh God, I got 15 more minutes. How am I going to make this work? That's when the fun begins because you got to make sure that either maybe you end the show early. You certainly can do that. But how do I keep entertaining with a guest where I think where I've gotten everything out of it? What do I do? And that's the challenge, but that's the fun part because you're live. We do what we do and we have to react. We are reactionary people. You and I, what we do, we react to questions, we react to responses and what's around us. So for me, it is a challenge and it is fun. And again, if it's not fun, I don't care what show I'm doing, then I've got to get out of it. My board operator, the owner of the studio, when he sits across from me, no matter what show I'm on, and I've known him for 10 years, his sole purpose in life is while I'm live on the air is to try to crack me up. That's his mission. So I always give a disclaimer. I tell people, no matter how serious the topic, if you see a little like smirk coming out on the side of my face, it's not you. It's my board operator, the producer behind the camera that's purposely trying to make me crack up live on the air. So you play these little games to stay sharp, like you said, but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it so enjoyable to do. And I want my energy to come through the camera and the speaker for somebody to keep laughing about something I said an hour later, or if they forgot something, go back to the video recording on Facebook or YouTube or Roku, where my shows are, and they can go back and revisit it anytime they want to, a lot like what you're doing here. That's the cool part. You and I can live in infamy forever, forever because of our recordings, and people can go back and still enjoy them. And knowing that that's out there, that I can help businesses have their marketing, and we talk about branding, some of what we talk about in general. I'm branding myself. I mean, sitting here, I got a shirt on. I want people to remember the voice. When I'm on with a business person, I'll have you on my show. We'll talk about your business and what you do to help people. That's all part of it. We got to put ourselves into a positive light because you know what? There ain't nobody else out there that's going to promote this better than ourselves. This is our commodity
Right.
right here. And no one's going to do better than us.
I love that. And I find myself feeling a slight vulnerability because you're, I think, episode number 1101, and I've probably been over the years on maybe like 40 shows. So
Yeah.
I feel like the ratio of being a bridesmaid versus a bride, so to speak, is quite off. And I'm not really sure why that is exactly. So do you have any insights if someone says like, I should be on more shows, but I can't really find the consistency, the deliberateness. Like, what do you have to say about just getting ourselves out there more consistently?
I learned a very important lesson early on that what I do is not for everybody in terms of being able to market and promote. I think everybody that has a business or a message should be advertising, period. And the lesson I learned is very simply this. Not every business or everybody wants to take advantage of the airwaves. And I had to learn that. And accepting where we are within the industry and what we do in terms of branding, we have to come up with different ways to get our words out, right? I mean, let's face it, most businesses rely on about 65% referral or repeat business, right? You and I, when we do this, for the most part, unless we go back and forth on our shows periodically, we're not necessarily going to be repeat customers for each other. So we have to stay out there. We have to make ourselves relevant. Hence my book, doing all these different shows, being out there to MC events. There's a school that I support. I go over and I host their events. They're just different things we have to do to make ourselves relevant for people to see what we do. Do I have visions of hosting a talk show 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, like a traditional? Sure, I would love to do that. But right now I'm in the space where I can do different demographics, different topics, and I still put in 4 hours a week. sometimes more. But branding is so important. I want people to remember the voice, not necessarily the TV show, but for this voice
Mhm.
right here. And you have to just keep with it. If something doesn't work, that's okay. There's something else out there that I guarantee will work. You just have to take the time and due diligence to find it and patience to find it.
Awesome. Find your thing, be patient. When it works, repeat it. And we want to make sure that, speaking of all this whole promotion talk, we want to make sure that people know about this book and about your shows. I know we mentioned it at the beginning, but as you know, there's a format to this, right? There's
Of course.
the initial bio, there's the getting to know you, there's kind of the middle storytelling,
Yep.
the unexpectedness, but then by the end, it's time to pay that light bill, right? It's time to
Right.
have those sponsors. So what
Exactly.
is the next step call to action? How does someone find out about your amazing book and your shows? Where do they go?
Vegas. My shows are there. And then under the shop tab, I have some swag, but I also have a link to my book on there, which is direct to Amazon. It can be downloaded for like, I think, $6.99. Or however, if somebody wants a hard copy and autographed, I will ship it to them for $20 even. You can email me through my website, my Facebook page, Aaron Phillips. Aaron's Hour Show is the page on Facebook, or Aaron Phillips LV 2018 at gmail.com. And I would love to chat with you. Post comments on my page, but I will find you if you contact me.
Fantastic. Well, I love your excitedness and your personality skills here, Mr. Aaron Phillips. Aaron Phillips LV 2018 at gmail.com. Aaron's Hour.Vegas. Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips. And as we wrap up our conversation here, Aaron, I like to stump my guests a little bit, put them on the spot, right? It's scary time. And I like to ask them for a fun quote or lesson to really wrap things up. So, does anything jump out in your mind as far as a fun ending quote or lesson?
Yeah. I started signing off my shows with the following line about 15, 14 years ago. We talk about society today, and I very simply look in the camera and I say the following: be kind to everybody. Why? We're all we have. People can interpret that any way they want to, but that's the message I end every show that I do. And I hope people will apply it in their realm to make it important for themselves.
Very nice. Let's be kind. And you're telling me that I need to think of my own catchphrase to end things to be memorable, to be relevant in the way that you're speaking. But in the meantime, let's go to Aaron's Hour.Vegas. It's
Yep.
been a blast speaking with you, Aaron.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate the opportunity. To your audience, thank you. And we'll reciprocate. We'll talk. I'll get you on my show.
Perfect. It's a done deal. Let's do it.
You got it.